Beautiful grade 10s, welcome back to another video. Alright, so today we are going to be starting with functions. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. The Lord has given us a beautiful day. Let's get into it. Alright, so functions. Alright, straight line graph. Alright, so this is just revision from last year, so most of you guys should already know what this is. Alright, but let's just revise some of the stuff from straight lines from last year. Alright, so if we look at it, alright, firstly, just look at the name, straight line. What do you think we're going to be drawing? A straight line. Wow, isn't that just lovely? Alright, so if we look at this, alright, so I want you to pause the video and I want you to quickly go and plot these points on this graph. Alright, so there's my first point. Okay, go plot where x is -2, y is -4, and then go plot the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. Okay, so pause the video. I'm going to do that. Right, so assume you've done it already. You've paused the video. Alright, so if I plot the first point, okay, my first point is x is -2, so I go to -2, and at -2, I know that y is going to be -4. Alright, so I'm going to go plot that over there. Alright, and if I plot the next one, so I've plotted that one, I'm going to plot this one now. Alright, so I go to x is -1, y is -2, and there we go. Here's my dot. Alright, and I'm going to go to this one, 0, 0. Right, and then I'm going to go to 1 and 2. So x is 1, y is 2. Right, and I'm going to go to x is 2, y is 4. Right, and can you see that these dots at the moment, what are they starting to form? They're starting to form a nice straight line. Alright, so I'm now going to take my straight line, get my lines here. Okay, and I'm going to now draw a straight line through those points. Okay, and that's all that graphs are. Okay, all the graphs that you're going to learn this year are all just points. Okay, x and y values, all little dots. Okay, that are now connected to each other. That's all that graphs are, guys. It's not difficult at all. I don't know why people hate graphs so much. All right, so if you look at the next one, I want you to do the same thing. Pause the video, go plot those quickly, just so you can practice, get in the practice of plotting points again. Alright, so let's plot the first one. So we go to x is -2 and y is -1. There we go. Okay, we plotted that one. We go to x is -1, y is 0. There. Alright, we go to 0 for x and y is 1. There we go. Plotted him. Alright, and then we go to x is 1, y is 2, x is 1, y is 2, there we go. And then we go to x is 2, y is 3. Right, and can you see that those dots are starting to form a straight line? There we go. So guys, that's all that graphs are, okay? Can you see that it's just points that I found, right? Some random points that I put into some kind of function, okay? And I got points, okay, that I just put on the graph, right? I put on the Cartesian plane. Nice and easy. That's all it is. Okay, so just having that in mind, right, how are we going to find the equation of a straight line graph? Okay, so in order to find the equation of any graph that we're going to be doing, we need to start with what? Always need to start with the general equation. Okay, so the general equation for a straight line graph, can anybody remember? Is y is equal to mx plus c. Do you guys remember that from last year? Okay, y equals mx plus c. So that is only for a straight line graph. Okay, so that will change, okay, depending on which graph you're going to be working with. All right, but for straight line, we know that the general equation is y equals mx plus c. Nice and easy. All right, so whenever, doesn't matter what function it is, doesn't matter what graph I'm drawing, I always want to first determine what kind of graph is it, what am I expected to draw, and what is the general equation of that. Okay, so I'm expected to draw straight lines, so I'm going to be using the general equation, which is y equals mx plus c. All right, so in order to draw, let's say I want to go find the equation of this graph over here. So if I draw this, okay, I want you to go find the equation of that quickly. Right, so I assume you've done it already. Alright, so in order for me to find the equation, okay, I need to do what? I need to start with the general equation, okay, which is mx plus c. Alright, now from last year, I'm remembering from last year, I need to go and find m and I need to go find c. Okay, can anybody remember what those things were? What is m, what is c? M is my gradient, so it's how steep or how not steep my line is, okay? So if I look at it, okay, it's how steep my line is, okay? Can you see that this is steep? If you have to walk up this line, okay, most of you won't get to the top because it's very steep, right? Or how not steep, okay, is my line, okay? That's a nice line to walk on, okay, nice and easy. Okay, so if I have to draw that, right, I want to go and find that, okay? So if I look at this, okay, my C value, okay, is what? It's where my graph, okay, so where this line cuts the y-axis. So this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. Okay, so it's where it cuts my y-axis. So where does it cut my y-axis? It cuts it there. Okay, and what is that special point over there? That is my origin. Okay, and that value there is 0. So I know that my C value is 0. Okay, and how am I going to find my M value? Okay, my M value, okay, either they will give you 2 points, okay, let's say they give you those 2 points, okay, and you'll have to use the gradient equation, the gradient formula, okay. So does anybody remember the gradient formula for me? Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, all right, so if we have this, right, let's say that this point over here was 2 and 2, so my x value is 2, my y value is 2, and over here my x value is minus 1, my y value is minus 1. Okay, so if I substitute those 2 points into this equation for my gradient, okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so we've got my y value, so let's say I'm going to use 2, minus the y value at the bottom, so that's minus negative 1, over the x value at the top here, that's 2, minus negative 1 again. Right, and that's my gradient. Alright, and what is 2 plus 1? It's 3, and 2 plus 1, which is 3, and that is just 1. Okay, so what is now the equation of this line? Okay, y is equal to 1x, okay, plus 0. Oh, but I don't have to write the plus 0, and I don't have to write, okay, the 1 over there either. Okay, so I can just say y is equal to x. Right, or something else that they could do if they don't give you 2 points, okay, is they could also do this. Okay, so instead of using the gradient formula, right, because the gradient formula needs 2 points, but what if they only give you one other point other than the origin? If they give you one other point, let's say they give you this point, only that one, okay, and they say that that is 2 and 2, they only give you that point, what happens then? Right, so we know that the C value is 0. So let's substitute this value into this equation. Let's see what we have left. So we've got y is equal to mx, right? And I need to go and find m, okay? In order to find m, I need an x value and I need a y value, all right? So if I look at this point, do I have an x value and do I have a y value? Yes, this is my x value. This is my y value. So if I go sub this point into this equation, okay, let's see what we get. So the y value there is 2, okay, m, and my x value there is also 2. Okay, 2 times m is just 2m, and that's 2. Right, and I'm just going to divide both sides by 2, divide by 2, and m is equal to 1. Alright, so now what is my equation? Y is equal to x, right? Because m is 1, c is 0. So you still get the same answer, okay? But there's 2 ways that you could do that. Okay, I hope that makes sense, guys. Alright, so if I now give you something like this, okay, if I say, okay, go and find the equation of this graph over here. Okay, let me just adjust a little bit. Let's go and do that down there. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright, and I say go find the equation of that line. Okay, so in order to start an equation or to draw up an equation of a graph, I always start with the general equation. So y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, so if I do that, alright, so I need to go and find the gradient and I need to go and find the c value. Okay, the c value always is the what? C value is my y-intercept. Okay, so my y-intercept here is 1. Okay, so my c is going to be 1. Alright, gradient. Okay, gradient, I need a formula. What is that formula? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, and for this gradient formula, okay, to work, I need how many points? I need 2 points. Alright, so do I have 2 points in this graph? Yes, I do. Okay, I've got that one there. Okay, I know what that value is there, and I know what that is there. Alright, so this is 2 and 0, my x-intercept, and this is my y-intercept, which is 0 and 1. Okay, let's go substitute those 2 points in there. Y value there is 1 minus 0 over the x values there, 0 minus 2. Okay, and what does that give you there? Okay, 1 minus 0 is 1 over negative 2, which is negative a half. Okay, so my equation is going to be negative 1 over 2 x plus 1. Okay, so that's all revision from last year. Alright, so that shouldn't be too much of new stuff that's happening. Right, so you guys should all remember most of what's happening here. Alright, so it's just a refresher of what you guys did last year. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much in too much detail here. Alright, so if you look at the next one. Alright, so sketching straight line graphs. Okay, let's see if we can remember how to sketch straight line graphs. Okay, so there's 2 straight line graphs that you're going to have to sketch. Okay, so there's either this one where it cuts my Cartesian plane. Now we know what a Cartesian plane is because we've done trig. Okay, Cartesian plane twice. There's once and twice. It cuts on my y-axis and it cuts on my x-axis. Okay, those are my y-intercepts and my x-intercept. Okay, so cuts twice, or it's going to cut once at the origin. Okay, and it only cuts once. It doesn't cut anywhere else. It only cuts once. Okay, all right. So those are the 2 types of straight line graphs that you're going to be drawing. Okay, so where it cuts once at the origin, or when it cuts twice, my y-intercept and my x-intercept. Okay, so in order to draw this over here, okay, I want you guys to visualize firstly. Visualize, okay, where's this graph going to cut? Okay, is it going to cut the Cartesian plane once, or is it going to cut twice? It's going to cut once. All right, when there's no c value, there's no c value here, it's 0 plus 0 here, right? If there's no c value, I know that this graph is going to go through which point? It's going to go through the origin, right? It's going to go through the origin. So there's my first point, right? So it's going to go through the origin of 0, 0. All right. And in order to draw any straight line, okay, any straight line, I need how many points? I need 2 points. Okay, so I've got 1 point on the graph, on the Cartesian plane, I've got 1. Where am I going to get my other one? All right. So whenever, okay, NB this, right? Remember this, what I'm saying now, right? Whenever your graph cuts, okay, once through the origin, whenever that happens, all right, I want you guys to immediately think of m is equal to rise over run. Right, and this is the only time that you'll use rise over run, and that's because I know that other teachers teach how to find equations using this formula for gradient. All right, and I've just noticed that kids get confused when to use this, when to use the other formula, and it just causes havoc. All right, so only use rise over run when you're busy sketching a graph. Okay, and it's when it's only when it's going through the origin. Okay, so I want you to ND that. All right, so sorry other teachers. Okay, this is just my preference. Okay, so rise over run, what does this mean? Okay, rise is my y values, rising up and down. Okay, and run left and right, my x values. Okay, so gradient, this is my gradient. Okay, but now what is my rise, what is my run here for this gradient? Right, any whole number can be written over 1. Right, so I've got a rise of 3 and a run of positive 1. Right, so I'm going to start at the origin. I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3. I'm going to rise by 3 and I'm going to run by 1. Okay, I'll show you how to do that again. Starting from the origin, rise by 3, 1, 2, 3, run by 1. Okay, rise over run. Okay, and now let's plot that point. What is that point called? Okay, what is the x value? 1. What is the y value? 3. Okay, alright, so now I've got 2 points, and I can just draw my line straight through those 2 points right there. Alright, draw it there. Let me just fix this up. Right, there's my 2 points, my line going through them. And then I'm always going to give my line a name. Alright, when you were born, your parents gave you a name. So now this line was born, alright, and you need to give it a name as well. Okay, put the name of the graph there. Okay. Alright, so I hope that makes sense, and there's barely any working out. Right, the only thing you really need to remember is this. Right, and this, you only use this when. When do you use this formula to sketch a graph? When the C value is equal to 0. Okay, when the C value, when there's no C value there. Okay, and you're going to see now why. Alright, so if I look at the next one. Alright, so firstly, immediately I see that I've got a C value. My C value isn't 0. So am I going to use this? No, I'm going to forget about it. There's something else that I'm going to be doing here. Alright, so if I look here, okay, if I look at this graph, alright, this is the one that I found the equation for, right, and I had a C value of 1, alright. If I look here at this graph, how many times does it cut the Cartesian plane? It cuts twice, alright. It cuts on my y-axis and it cuts on my x-axis, right? That's called my y-intercept and my x-intercept, right? And you've probably heard your teacher say this 1,000 times. On my y-axis, what is my x value everywhere on my y-axis? My x value. It's always going to be 0, right? And on my x-axis, what is my y value? Always on my x-axis. It's always going to be 0. All right, so knowing that, all right, I know that this graph is going to cut twice as well. All right, it's going to cut here somewhere. Okay, it's going to cut my y-axis and it's going to cut my x-axis. All right, and so to find where it cuts my y-axis, my y-intercept, okay, we know that on the y-axis, what value do I know on my y-axis? I know that x is always equal to 0. Alright, so if x is always equal to 0, we've got y is equal to 0 plus 2, right, which is just 2. Okay, so I want you guys to also notice something. Okay, my y-intercept looks the same as this c value, right? And I want you to just notice that for now. Okay, plus 2, plus 2. Alright, so give me now the point that I just created. Okay, so in point coordinate form, what is the x value that I used to get my y value of 2? I used x is 0, and what y value did that give me? 2. Right, let's go plot that point. I go to x is 0, and I go to y is 2. and there's my my first point. Okay, and let's label it at 0 and 2. Alright, now I also know that this straight line is also going to cut my x-axis. And on my x-axis, what do I know? I know that the y value is always 0. So my x-intercept, in order to find my x-intercept where the graph cuts the x-axis, alright, we know that the y value is always going to be 0 on my x-axis. Okay, so if I substitute 0 in for y, I've got 0 equals x plus 2. Alright, in order to find x, I take the 2 across, it becomes negative 2, I've got x there. Alright, give me my coordinate that I just made here. Okay, my x value is negative 2. And what y value did I use to get this x value? I used y0. Alright, so now you can see when I go plot this, this point is going to be on my x-axis. Okay, alright, so we're going to go to negative 2 and 0. And there it is there. And I can plot that. That's negative 2 and 0. Alright, and I've got 2 points. So I'm just going to draw my line straight through those 2 points. And I'm not going to forget to give my line a name. X plus 2. Alright, so notice the 2 differences. Alright, so we've got no c value. When the c value is 0, we're going to use rise over run. Right, and we know it's going to cut through the origin. Okay, and we're going to say rise over run, get our point, draw our line through the origin. Okay, when there is a c value, we have to go find where it cuts my y-axis and where it cuts my x-axis. So on my y-axis, I know that the x value is always going to be 0. And on my x-axis, I know that my y value is always going to be 0. Okay, y-intercept, x is 0. X-intercept, y is 0. Okay, I'm hoping that's making sense and it's refreshing you guys from last year. Let's move on. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, 2 more examples and we can call it a day. Alright, so look at this. Do I have a c value? Yes. Immediately I'm thinking, where's this cutting? It's cutting my y-axis and it's cutting my x-axis. Alright, so I'm thinking y-intercept, x-intercept. So my y-intercept is where x is equal to 0 always, right? X is equal to 0. That means that y is going to be negative 2. All right, notice that. Notice that. Can you see that the c value is always going to be my y-intercept? All right, always. All right, so what is the point that I'm going to plot here? Give me the point, coordinate. Negative 2 for y, 0 for x. All right, let's go plot that. There it is over there. Alright, and we're going to label that 0 and negative 2. Alright, then to get where it cuts my x-intercept, we know that y is 0. That's going to be 0 is equal to a half x minus 2. Take the 2 across, becomes positive 2 equals a half x. Okay, in order to get x by itself, I divide by a half on both sides. And if I divide by a half, I'm going to get 4 and x. Alright, now give me the coordinate there. X is 4, y is 0. Let's go plot that. Plot that on the graph. That's 4 and 0. Right, and then I can just draw my line straight through there. Right, let's draw it straight through there. Boom, boom. Nice, nice. Right, and then we also need to give our graph a name. So y is equal to half x minus 2. Alright, okay, hoping that's making sense. Right, just rewatch the video. Okay, just go back a few seconds if you don't understand anything. Right, going on to the next one. Alright, bing, bing. Right, immediately I see that there's no c value. So what am I thinking immediately? No c value means what? M equals rise over run. Good stuff. Alright, so this is what I'm going to do, rise over run. Okay, and that's always when my c value is 0. Alright, so when my c value is 0, right, I know that this graph is going to cut my y-axis where? At 0. Alright, there's my x-axis. So it's going to cut there. It's going to cut through the origin. right? And my origin is going to be 0.0 and 0. Okay, now when there's a negative gradient, okay, when there's a negative gradient, it's a little bit different now. Okay, so now I've got an extra negative here. Okay, something new, but we're going to do exactly the same. So you can choose now which of the two numbers gets the negative. Either the top or the bottom. Okay, not both. One or the other. Alright, so I'm going to take this out and I'm going to choose, I want to put it here with a negative 2. Okay, so if I put it with a negative 2, that means the 5 is positive. Okay, so what is my rise? My rise is negative 2. And what is my run? Positive 5. Alright, so if I'm starting at the origin, alright, what is my rise? Negative 2. So am I going up or down? I'm going down to negative 2. And then I also have to run still. Okay, don't plot your point here. Okay, because I still have to run. Where do I have to run to? I have to run to 5. Okay, there's 5 over there. Right, and what is that point? Coordinate. It's 5 for x and negative 2 for y. Okay, so I ran 5 and I'm at negative 2 for y on my y-axis here. Right, then I've got those 2 points and then I'm just going to draw. Okay, I'm just going to draw my line straight through those 2 points. Bam, bam. Right, there we go. That's my line. Right, and I birthed that line, so I need to give it a name. Y is equal to negative 2 over 5x. Okay, now you might be asking me, sir, but now what if I chose to make the 5 negative? That's perfectly fine. So let's change this. Alright, so let's say you chose to make the 5 negative and the 2 positive. That's perfectly fine. Now it just means that my rise is going to be positive and my run is going to be negative. Okay, you'll still get exactly the same thing. Right? Your point will just be different. Okay, so my rise now, starting at the origin, my rise is positive 2, 1, 2. And my run is negative 5, left or right? To the left. Okay, and I go to 5. There's my point. And you see it's still on my graph. Okay, but now my point will differ and it will be negative 5, positive 2. Okay, you don't have to put both of these points on the graph. Okay, I'm just showing you if you chose to make the bottom one negative. I always just choose the top one to be negative. It's just, I don't know, I just do it. Alright, but you can choose either one. Just make sure that you don't make both of them negative. Either one or the other, not both. Okay, alright guys, so that's the basics of a straight line. Okay, I hope you now learned how to find the equation and also how to sketch your straight line graphs. Alright, in the next video we're going to be going into parabolas, nice and exciting things, alright, and then hyperbola and exponential graph, and then we're going to put them all together in a nice mengelmoes of stuff. Okay, I hope that helps, and I hope this video was beneficial for you guys. Okay, goodbye.